These are some players who have been ruined by their own teams, and Rob Dillingham is the textbook definition of this right now. The Timberwolves traded away 2 first-round picks for a top 10 pick in 2024, just for that pick to rack up DNPs while they wheel Mike Conley out of the nursing home and into the Target Center. For a team that appeared to really believe in him, gambling away 2 future assets for a draft pick that they didn't exactly need, as at the moment, they were already contenders. Now fast forward to current day, and the world is wondering, what the hell is going on? And for good reason. He was a prospect that everyone just assumed would thrive in the league, because their skill set was just too undeniable. Bro was a certified bucket even before college. He dropped 22 a game at Combine Academy, even getting a short stint at Donda Academy before they shut down. Dillingham already had a lot of eyes on him, but he was electric. He went and played for a year with Overtime Elite in a league that was kind of cringe, but in front of all the lights and cameras nonetheless. Fast forward to his days at Kentucky, and this is where things start to get interesting. Even as a freshman at Kentucky coming off the bench, he averaged 15 a night on 48 and 45 shooting splits. This guy mostly had one job: come in and spark up the offense like a backwood off the bench, and he certainly torched it. Dilly shot the ball crazy well. Those splits are solid as fuck, especially for a lot of those being unassisted. When you watch him play, there's no need to really dissect into what's so intriguing for NBA teams here. This guy's a shot creator. The ball's on a string, his feet are supercharged, and with 4 assists and a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, he had some potential as a playmaker, although not exactly NBA ready. There's upside galore in a guy that you can just throw out there, say put the ball in the basket, and then he fucking does it. It's kinda rarer than you'd think, at least at anywhere near this high of a clip. And with draft comparisons to Lou Williams or even Kemba Walker, you can get an idea why at certain points, people were speculating whether Robert Dillingham was a top 3 draft pick or not. But with every spark plug often comes their own set of downsides, and Rob is no different. On days where he's dribbling the ball around on a string, hitting his roll men, and pulling up from 3 at a 45% clip, you ask yourself, how the fuck do you guard this guy? And the only answer is, wait for a day when he's not doing that, because they're gonna come. I mean, shot selection issues, iffy decision making, just overall inconsistency. Guys, I've just been playing this cool new game recently, and I swear the Dunk City Dynasty November update just dropped one of the craziest surprises that I've seen in a while. They didn't overhaul the game this time, but they dropped 2 new things that completely changed how I play. First off, James Harden is finally in the game. Yes, that James Harden. Western players have been begging for this, and now he's finally here. And on top of that, they just added the Thunder jerseys, which means the legendary OKC Big 3 of Durant, Westbrook, and Harden can finally reunite in their classic OKC look. It feels unreal seeing them back together. Plus, they introduced this new feature called Jersey Subscription, where you can swap uniforms instantly and build your dream teams however you want them. I've been messing with it all week, and creators everywhere are running streams as the OKC Big 3 and absolutely dominating. And since it's Thanksgiving and Black Friday, there's a huge in-game holiday sale event happening right now, so it's the perfect time to jump in. If you want to try it out yourself, now's the time. And a big thanks to Dunk City Dynasty for sponsoring today's video. These issues separate the guys like Kemba Walker, a bona fide star, from a guy who's just a professional bench player. But with Rob, there's added speculation. In college, this guy was listed at 6'3", 175. Maybe on stilts with 10 pimp jackets on, but on the floor, this guy's small, bro. I mean, I've ran into this dude at the gym before. This guy's like 6'1", 160. He's a small guard. And with that disadvantage comes a lot of his shot selection diet being acrobatic finishes, pull-ups, step-backs. I mean, again, there's guys like Kemba Walker who became elite-level scorers pulling the same type of looks, but there's far more guys who never develop anywhere near that type of consistency than those that actually do. Now, come draft time, Rob was a guy to watch. Small guards are inherently higher risk, and busting on a high-risk player in the top 5 doesn't sound like any fun. So come draft nights, Dillingham slid to 8th. Not as much due to his own play, for say as much as just teams not being willing to gamble when the money was on the table, as the mock drafts may have believed. Nonetheless, after the draft rights were swapped to Minnesota, many were calling the Timberwolves the sneaky winners of the draft. After all, the Timberwolves are still starting Mike Conley, who was drafted when George Bush was president. And after the Cat trade in 2024, this left the Timberwolves point guard rotation as just Conley and DiVincenzo, who you'd be generous to call a combo guard. I mean, Tim Conley has done an excellent job building up this Wolf squad to heights they've never seen before. and drafting a very, very talented yet slightly undisciplined guard to play under and learn under a guy like Mike Conley, who's essentially the most disciplined true point guard left on the planet, seemed to be a pretty good retirement plan, especially as Conley seems to be getting slower by the day. When Minnesota drafted him, fans were fucking stoked, dude. This looked like a 1-2 punch of power and shiftiness, the kind of young backcourt that would feed families with House of Highlight mixtapes for generations. But instead of this potential being unleashed, Robert has yet to show too much. He walked into an already legit contenders rotation that had no patience for any sort of experimentation guy. These guys were coming off a Western Conference Finals berth with a coach in Chris Finch that I wouldn't say hates rookies as much as he just makes you earn your minutes. And in Rob's rookie year, there weren't too many to go around. Rob came in out of the gate clocking 5 DNPs in his first 5 games in the NBA. I don't know what this dude said or did at practice, but I guess he's just a basketball terrorist to not catch a single second in his first 5 games. The thing is, the hole in the Timberwolves' entire fucking system is at the point guard position. They're win now, of course, and point guards take reps to develop. Not many rookies are winning players out of the gate, but somebody has to be ready to take over the reins for Mike Conley, whose end is obviously near. And immediately out of the gate, the Wolves made it known that Dillingham isn't a rotation piece. Through his first full year in the NBA, Rob would only get into 49 games as a top 10 pick, and at that, he wasn't overly efficient. I mean, Rob has some flaws in the NBA. He was what you drafted after all. I mean, not only did these fuckers choose to burn a pick for him, they sold more of their future for it. So, I don't know what the fuck they're exactly expecting from him, to be honest. The vision made sense. Dillingham running pick and rolls, pushing the pace, getting out in transition, throwing at lobs and shit. It makes sense on paper. But no one thought, or should I say no one should have thought, that this would be an instant boom in the NBA. Point guards need to adjust to the league more than anyone else, and nothing about this game screamed instant piece of a championship contending team. In fact, those meaningless reps of losing games are really exactly what Dillingham needs right now. High-speed fuck-ups that he can make without getting pulled aren't just mistakes. Ultimately, when you're asked to play a floor general role in the NBA, these are essential learning experiences that even the best playmakers in the NBA made early on. And when you're not necessarily a talented playmaker, and your game's built on confident shot making, Dillingham really looked cooked from the jump. As always, it would be wrong to put the blame entirely on one side. After all, the Wolves were still a Western Conference Finals team last year with Geezer Conley, and Rob was kind of playing like shit for the most part. Outside of just getting bigger, which he should already be by now, like get this kid some fucking creatine, some Jeff Nippert videos, get him on Trenbolone for fuck's sake. But anyways, this guy still has holes in his game. The perk of playing on this Timberwolves team for Rob is that with guys like Edwards, Gobert, McDaniels, and young pieces like Jalen Clark, you can hide Rob defensively. He looks not great on this end, no one expected he would be, but nonetheless, they hide his little ass pretty well and focus on the offensive side of the ball that seriously needs some work. He's came out and said that he feels a bit uncomfortable in his role during his time on the floor. He's used to shooting and creating at will. I mean, I can imagine he was essentially always the point of attack guy. And being asked to float off the ball, be like the secondary to third option ball handler, is probably not what he imagined when coming into the NBA top 10. But at the same time, what do you expect these guys to do? Give up Ant or Randall touches for him? A lot of Dillingham's game, I'd really hesitate to critique. He's clearly uncomfortable, he's not the team's top priority or anywhere close. I usually forget he's on the team, and I'm sure his confidence has taken a major hit by now, but at the same time, this guy needs to find some sort of way to finish inside, whether it be a floater game, gaining weights, I don't know, dude. You get like 6 mil, get it done, dude. As of this season, Rob has cracked the rotation, kinda. He's played 12 of 15 games while averaging about 10 minutes of mostly garbage time, where he's shooting some absolutely miserable percentages that can only really go up. The truth for Robert Dillingham is weird, man. These guys drafted a project they don't have time to develop. The Timberwolves spent a lot to buy into him, just to bitch about him not being something that no one expected him to be. Now, Dalton Knecht 4 entered the league not only with one of the dopest nicknames already, but also with the praise of lead GM himself, saying he and the guys had their eyes on Knecht back in Tennessee when he was squaring up against Edey and Purdue. Imagine the feeling he must have had knowing that Bron was scouting him and noticing his game, then getting drafted 17th overall to the Lakers with him. That's literally a wet dream of so many players, it's crazy. And when he arrived in Los Angeles, he came in hot and fucking ready like a Little Caesars deep dish. Ready to shoot the ball at will, ready to carve out a real role on a team that desperately needed the exact things that he provided, even just as a rookie. And early on, he looked like someone that would be that and more for the Lakers. Someone whose confidence was an act, whose rhythm was natural. But for Knecht, his little fairy tale start to the NBA would only take a turn. As we all know, the NBA doesn't care about players unless they're literal superstars. And even then, it's not for sure. But organizations treat role players like universities treat students. You're just a number to them. Knecht learned that the hard way, when the Lakers tried to ship him to Charlotte for Mark Williams. But that's not even what's bad. It's the fact that the trade got rescinded before Dalton had to go back and suit up for the team who just basically traded him. A young player thinking he was in the perfect scenario as a rookie absolutely flashbanged with the trade. Being publicly shopped before you've even unpacked your bags sends a message that you're probably not secure here. And the wounds don't really just magically heal like Wolverine since the deal collapsed. They still sting, I'd imagine. Knecht isn't a 10-year player who's already been through multiple contract cycles, who fully understands the business, probably. He's a dude who's still getting used to the league, still adjusting to the speed, still trying to belong. And when the message you receive from your own organization is that you're on the trading block, obviously it chips away at the confidence that he had going. Confidence for scorers isn't just about whether the shots fall. It's about knowing that you're trusted to take them. It's about knowing you'll be allowed to shoot through mistakes and eventual cold slumps, rather than punished for taking them. And on top of all this happening, you got every news station gooning over Bronny, posting every breath he takes on the court, while the actual best rookie on the Lakers organization spent half the year shooting 40% from three, and half the year being benched once Luka came to town. When every camera, every headline, every conversation revolves around another rookie who was drafted a whole round later than you, it creates an emotional dynamic where Knecht kind of just became the quiet kid. Kind of like middle child syndrome or some shit, the one receiving none of the praise or hype. Knecht didn't come in entitled or expecting stardom, he came in expecting a fair shot and ready to put in the work. It just happened to be in the complete zoo that us Americans like to call Los Angeles. When that shot gets clouded by the media, by organizational priorities he has no control over, I mean, you gotta look at the 29 other franchises who would probably treat you better and wonder, what if? I mean, you could see it in his body language. Less celebrations, less involved, quieter. You can see it in the way he reacts after misses, shoulders dropping, eyes shifting downwards as if he's wondering what Reddick will say, instead of making up for it on defense where he's a traffic cone. These are signs of a player whose mind outweighs his play. And in the NBA, the mental burden is often far more important than physical ability. Knecht has the tools there for a young guy to thrive. Shooting touch, scoring instincts at 6'6". Dalton Knecht has all of the tools to drop an efficient 20 per game at some point on a lot of ball clubs in the NBA. The problem isn't exactly him, it's whether he'll get the chance to show it. The Lakers right now are not really into development unless it's got James DNA. They are a win now, need to make immediate impact type of franchise, where young players must force their way into relevance rather than be guided towards it. But not every young player thrives under that, and Knecht is the type whose game relies heavily on staying in rhythm and playing his role. Instead, every night it feels like he's got to prove himself to the coaching staff, to the fans, and to the whole world that watches these guys. And now, the player who used to play free is now fighting for a spot rather than worrying about playing for his reps. There's a version of Dalton Knecht out there, on a different team in a different context, who's thriving right now. A version who's getting consistent minutes, taking 10-15 shots a night, learning through mistakes, and feeling valued in a way that lifts his confidence rather than undercuts it. A version who is allowed to develop without the weight of media that LeBron gravitates towards him, or the trade rumors. A version who's becoming the exact kind of modern scoring wing that every team wants nowadays. But right now, the mental environment he's stuck in is harming his development as a player, and the Lakers' risk of losing the best version of him before he gets the chance to fully emerge. Now, let's rewind the clock a little bit to look at an organizational failure from beginning to end. Nerlens Noel had the potential to be one of the very few bright spots of the infamously shit 2013 Anthony Bennett draft. Now, obviously, eventually Giannis and Gobert would become something, but Nerlens Noel looked like he was going to be the rim-protecting lob threat of that draft. Just one of those players who felt like a sure thing defensively. Maybe not offensively polished, maybe not a franchise centerpiece, but definitely seemed like a lock to be another athletic big who could thrive in a league becoming more fast-paced by the day. Coming out of Kentucky, Nerlens Noel stood out because he had the raw tools that translate. Elite timing on blocks, averaging an absurd 4.4 of them as a freshman, and the frame to become one of those modern centers who could switch, protect the rim, hedge out on screens, and still recover in time to alter shots at the basket. If Rudy Gobert could become a multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year and eventually earn a massive contract, why couldn't Noel follow a similar path? But instead of being drafted into a situation that needed what he brought, he was dropped straight into the heart of the Sixers' infamous process era, one of the most chaotic developmental graveyards the league has ever seen. Grabbing talent not because it fit anything, but because it existed and it was exciting at the time. I mean, they went ahead and traded for Noel's draft rights, while they had no real need for another big. And that's where the problem started for Noel. Not only did he arrive in Philly recovering from an ACL tear, which already slowed down his intro to the league, but the team had no clear plan for him. They would go on to draft more centers. They drafted Jahlil Okafor, they drafted Joel Embiid, they had Spencer Hawes and Henry Sims taking minutes before Noel even got a chance to show who he was. Noel went from being one of the more intriguing young defensive prospects to being the third or fourth name on a constantly shifting Philly depth chart. Centers don't fully develop in short spurts. They need a team that understands to use them fully, that builds schemes around their strengths, that gives them long stretches of consistency to learn how to position themselves defensively, and learn how to communicate with teammates on defense in a real game time. This is essential for any young developing big man. Philly never provided any of that for him. Instead, Noel got spotty minutes, inconsistent roles with an unorganized young roster, and a GM that was talking shit about his own players on Twitter burners. From the moment he stepped on the court, he was competing with players who were drafted after him, drafted before him, and drafted around him. All of them meant to play the same position, all of them needing the same developmental minutes. It created a situation where Noel was never fully allowed to settle as a player. And the most frustrating part is that even within this mess, he showed real signs of being the defensive presence that people expected. He had games where his shot-blocking instincts took over in the short time that he played, where he would disrupt everything inside 8 feet, where he showed hints of being a legitimate defensive anchor that any team would pay. But context matters. Fit matters. Development matters. And when you're a young big man, maybe almost more than any other position in the league, your environment dictates your ceiling. Noel never got the proper environment suited around him. By the time the Sixers finally moved him, shipping him to Dallas, the league had already formed a perception of Noel that was hard for him to get rid of. He wasn't looked at as a young prospect anymore, but just a defensive-minded guy that came a dime a dozen. Teams stopped imagining what he could become and instead just focused on what he already was, never believing he could develop to anything more than that. Noel bounced around, always providing good defense, always being a disruptor in the paint, always showing effort, and always contributing in the ways that he could. But because he never got the proper chance to develop anything else to his game, he wasn't looked at as valuable. He never regained the trajectory that he had before the draft, when people truly believed he could become one of the league's most premier defensive bigs if placed in the right system. That's what's so shitty about his career. It wasn't because of his failure, but misplacement that effectively ended his career before it started. Noel wasn't a bust, he was a victim of Philly's GM's decisions. A defensive prospect whose growth required a stable team, but who instead landed in franchise treating players like poker chips. All upside, no structure, no plan for how those players were actually going to fit and play together as a team. And because of that, the version of Noel that people imagined, the one who could anchor a defense, who could switch and protect the rim, who could become even better than what Gobert turned out to be, never fully materialized. Not because he lacked the tools, but because he lacked the environment. Fit is everything, opportunity is everything, and timing is everything. If Noel had ended up somewhere that actually valued what he brought to the game, we might be talking about a completely different career, but he didn't. And the league lost a version of a player who may have been far better than what he became. Kuminga is another prime example, and like Dalton Knecht, also got one of the coldest nicknames in league history. But if he was on nearly any other rebuilding roster, he would already be framed publicly as a franchise cornerstone. A 6'7" freak athlete with elite switch-everywhere defensive instincts and great offensive upside, the kind of versatility that could get GMs bricked. In Golden State, his situation often feels like his potential isn't treated like it should be. He flashed the kind of game that makes you believe he's an eventual all-star caliber player, proving he could score and defend at every level, which would make you think Steve Kerr would prioritize this guy, right? Well, not exactly. Apparently, there's belief on Kerr's part that Kuminga's rawness and pace would be detrimental to the team. Meanwhile, on the other side, On Kuminga's part, he feels Kerr isn't giving him enough responsibility or opportunity. It went viral during a bench incident where Kerr visibly challenged Kuminga's decision-making during a live game moment. Kuminga responded, not defensively, but with assertiveness, defending his aggressiveness and his right to take risks on the defensive side of the ball. If I was Kerr, I'd let the man be aggressive. Let him have more responsibility on the floor, because he averages like 13 on 50% shooting and 33% from deep. But he's averaged as much as 17 on the same percentages when he was given extended minutes. I mean, these numbers don't really look that raw to me. They look like a young starter building towards something real. And yet, despite his production and flashes, trade talks were around him almost constantly. That Kerr views him less as a foundation pillar and more as a tradable asset. Rather than letting that speculation rattle him, Kuminga has doubled down. He keeps showing up, competing hard, defending with tenacity, and proving night after night that even in uncertainty, his commitment to improving his game isn't going anywhere. On a young franchise, you could imagine Kuminga as a centerpiece, guarding 1 through 4 and using his athletic defense to make offenses hesitate. Pair that with his emerging shot becoming a two-way scoring option, and you got a Kawhi-like player. In that world, he's not just a rotational piece, he's a part of the future this team builds around. But on the Warriors in its current state, trying to maximize Curry's last years, he's probably just thought of as an asset to help get another aging star to help Curry and Jimmy Butler. As we mentioned, the mental toll for playing on a team that doesn't value has on a player is actually insane. For a young player whose identity is formed around explosive play, aggressive pacing, and a willingness to attack, being limited to corner sitting while Jimmy and Butler do their thing just isn't going to help develop your style of play. But he has to do what Kerr says if he ever wants to see the floor, so it's a frustrating situation for sure. He's thinking probably whether it's worth it to give his all for a franchise not invested in his future with the team, or hope another team sees what Golden State is missing, and gives the cum buckets his chance to shine. The Thunder have amassed an exceptionally deep roster of young players, each with their own promise and potential, meaning there simply aren't enough minutes to go around for every developing talent to get the consistent playing time that they need. That's where Nikola Topić comes in. Bro is a rare combination of size, vision, and skill for a young player, but the lack of court time makes it harder for him to find a rhythm, and showcase the kind of creativity that made OKC want him in the first place. Overseas, when he played, he was elite. The smooth playmaking, averaging 6 assists, and a difficult, more half-set focused style of basketball in Europe just goes to show he has basketball IQ that a young player typically doesn't. He sees the game differently, and due to unfortunate injuries and a diagnosis, and the fact the roster he's on doesn't really have a fit for him, we won't get to see his basketball IQ in effect too much. That's the kind of development opportunity that a deep Thunder squad probably isn't fully equipped to offer him right now. And it leaves fans and analysts imagining what he could do if given a starting role on a team that actually needs him. Think of Josh Giddey. They're in the same exact position, minus the allegations, I guess, but both having similar play styles. And Josh Giddey, who, after getting traded to Chicago, was given the green light to take on a much larger role, is now a walking triple-double, about to make an all-star game. That transformation illustrates what consistent responsibility can do for a player's growth. Topić has all of the tools to be a similar figure. A dynamic playmaker, making smart defensive reads, and someone who could anchor a franchise's future. But unfortunately, adding to the difficulty of his developmental path is something way bigger than basketball. Something that actually threatens his own life. A testicular cancer diagnosis at just 20 years old. Something that no one should have to go through this young, but thankfully, Topić has access to all the top-tier medical care in the world, and a team of specialists dedicated to monitoring his health and treatment. The combination of his skill sets, intelligence, and determination suggests that when he does eventually get healthy and is given the proper opportunity, there's a legitimate chance that he could be something special in the league for years to come. What makes Topić so interesting is that on almost any other young team in the league, he would be considered a cornerstone prospect. A young dude that an organization would prioritize and make sure he develops. His IQ for the game is rare for someone at 20 years old. He can create for others, defend multiple positions, and impact games in ways that few players at his age can. And yet, because the Thunder are absolutely stacked with young talents, and unfortunately due to his health concerns, he probably isn't in the Thunder's future plans fully. When he recovers, he has to fight for playing time against arguably the most depth roster in the league that already just got a chip while he was out. Topić is still young, still talented, and still extremely capable to be a demon in the future, but his journey will require extra patience, perseverance, and when he gets back to playing, he just needs more minutes. The tantalizing part of all of this is imagining what would happen if Topić originally landed in a situation where he was giving the reins as a rook. A rebuilding team lacking a leader in the backcourt would instantly benefit from a player who can orchestrate an offense like he could overseas. Given his size and vision, he could run a pick and roll efficiently, stretch the floor as a shooter, and guard 1 through 3. And in his mental game, it's clear he could be a key figure for the right organization. If he reaches even a fraction of his potential, Topić could be an all-star in the league. Just how Giddey he probably will be this year. Like I've been saying, talent alone isn't enough. Team fit, opportunity, health, and trust are all equally critical. Topić and everyone else mentioned today all offer or offered something extremely valuable as a young prospect. That it's almost sad to see the talent unfolding due to circumstances they can't control. For Topić, when he gets back to 100%, whether it's for the Thunder or if he gets a bigger role elsewhere, I hope we get to see what this kid can do on the floor.